Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our meeting tonight. This will be a business meeting. We will also have a review of our financial report, and we will have a budget overview. I call the meeting to order, and we will do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Tonight we have a special report. Mr. Joseph Hero from the Bonadio Group will be giving us an overview of our financial report. So anytime you're ready, you can begin.
I'm ready. All right, good to see everybody. For those of you that don't know, I'm Joe Hero. I'm a principal at the Bonadio Group. I'm responsible for overseeing your audit. We had a couple staff people involved on site for a few days. We did a lot of work remote. It was a different kind of audit year, but we got through it. So I'll just go through. You should have 3 deliverables there. The financial statement audit and uniform guidance audit, or the single audit, that's all one packet. The required communication letter, and then the audit of the extra classroom activity fund. They're all in draft format right now. They're in our QC process. It should, maybe the end of the week, early next week, but certainly by the 15th to meet the filing deadline for the education department is the plan. Nothing should change in these. There might be some wording changes. Sometimes QC makes me change words. They don't like that I use. So the numbers should be good though. So having said that, we'll jump right into the audit. The independent auditor's opinion on the financial statements, page 1 through 3, was unmodified. The opinion's actually on page 2. Unmodified is the highest level of assurance we give, highest level of assurance you can get on your financial statements. Basically, it means they're presented in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles in the United States of America. So that's what you want to see there. The next thing I'll talk about, the MD&A. Again, not going to go through that. I don't even know if we bothered putting it up here, but that's pages 4 through 13. It's a summary. It's written by management. It provides a good summary of the year, what went on, and then provides a little bit, some bullet points at the end, looking forward on factors that'll impact the district. And the big factor, I'm going to jump to footnote 16 on page 51, is the pandemic. As you know, it's impacted all of us in our everyday lives, and certainly New York State financially trickled down to you guys. So as of June 30th of 20, they withheld 20% of what they owed you as of June 30th. So I don't think the original plan was to do that, but they did. So right now we took, you have a deferred revenue of $295,000 in the general fund. Some of it's special aid also, but the chunk of it was the general fund, your excess cost aid and your BOCES aid. The plan is they're going to pay it, so they say, but I know they're changing things daily going forward, what they're going to withhold, what they're not going to withhold. Like I know that they didn't withhold your September payment. That wasn't really a payment to you though. That was a payment for your teacher's retirement system. So that's going to impact you going forward. And I think there's some bullet points in that MD&A that talk about that. The next thing I'll talk about, the thing that most districts are concerned about is the fund balance limit. That's on page 57. You have to be at or under 4% of your unrestricted fund balance based on the next year's expenditure budget. You're at 3.95. So no issues there. You're in compliance with the New York State law there, which kind of brings me into the next report on page 60 and 61, internal controls over financial reporting. That deals with internal controls. We do not test controls, but we do not issue an opinion on internal controls, I should say. We test controls, and that allows us to determine our substantive testing, and that testing is what allows us to issue an opinion on the financial statements, which, as I said, was unmodified. This report, we would also note if there are any material weaknesses or significant deficiencies in your internal control structure, and there were none. And this is also where, had your fund balance been in excess of 4%, we would note that as a compliance finding here. but obviously you're under 4%, so no issue there and no other compliance findings to be reported in this report. I'll jump to the required communication letter now. This is, as it says, it's required. It's a standard letter. It discloses if there are any changes in accounting principles. This year for 2020, there was nothing new. It also discloses significant estimates and significant disclosures that are also in your notes to your financial statements. Pretty much copies the wording, maybe shortens a little bit there. We would also know any past adjustments or material journal entries we made as a result of our audit. I'm happy to say there were none there, either past adjustments or material journal entries. And we would also note if there were any difficulties encountered during our audit, and there was none there also. Questions on the financial statement side of things? I know I went through very high level, but since we did a detailed review with the audit committee, I figured that was sufficient. But if there's questions, I can certainly answer them. Nope. All right, I'm going to jump to the uniform guidance now, the single audit report. Again, that has an internal control report. It's the same report as internal controls over financial reporting, but this report applies just to your major federal program, which this year was the school or child nutrition cluster. I wanted to say school lunch fund, same thing, but child nutrition cluster, again, no material weaknesses, no significant deficiencies. And we do issue an opinion on compliance for that major federal program, and that was unmodified. The district was a low risk auditee. That basically kind of, it affects the testing that we have to do. If you're low risk, we only have to test 20% of your federal funds. If you're high risk, it's 40%. And basically that's a 2-year look back to calculate that. So you'll be low risk next year because we had no findings this year either. So no issues with the single audit. And then the final thing I believe I have in there is the extra classroom. Well, there's the summary. So that page, the summary there, that summarizes the whole audit that I kind of just went through on one page. Unmodified opinion on the financial statements, no material weaknesses, no significant deficiencies, no non-compliance. There's the federal award side. So it's a nice little summary page if you didn't want to read through the whole thing. That pretty much summarizes it all and says unmodified. Everything's what you want it to be on that page there. And then the final report is the extra classroom activity fund. That report's a little different this year. I think in the prior years it's been unmodified. We modify all of our extra classroom reports for the completeness assertion over cash receipts. Every district gets the same report. It's just the nature of cash receipts. You know, you've got students involved, you've got teachers involved. It's not their main job to be internal control experts. So there's cash coming in, you know, there's not necessarily a reconciliation done of every dollar that comes in, or if they're selling inventory, comparing it to what you got to the inventory that's left. So basically that's why it's modified. Not a big deal. You know, if you want us to come in, we do trainings at the beginning of the school year. I know this year is different. I don't even know what it's going to look like for extra classroom this year, but at some point when they're back, we do trainings. We train club advisors. We've had the student treasurers come. It takes an hour, not a big deal, but something to think about if you'd like us to come in and do the training and have somebody else to blame. You can blame the auditors for everything that you're asking them to do. And that's it.
I would just like to mention that Mr. Sam Johnson, Ms. Penny Grinnell, and Ms. Sandra Pangburn are participating virtually tonight. And Mrs. Pangburn and Mrs. Nardolillo are co-chairs of the audit committee. And I don't know if either Mrs. Pangburn or Mrs. Nardolillo would like to say anything.
Yes, I would like to say. Sandy, do you want me to speak, or do you have any words to share? Okay, Joe.
No, go ahead.
Welcome to North Colony. I know this is the first audit that you did for us. Is that correct?
Yes.
So we welcome you. We thank you for your good work. And we're happy to have an unmodified, the highest opinion you could give. I wish it were a better word than unmodified, but we'll accept it as long as it's the highest we can get. We appreciate that.
Yep, absolutely.
I thank you for your work, and I would also like to thank Mr. Hoot and Sarah, our treasurer, and Jane Dawson from our business office for their good work. I know you mentioned at our audit committee meeting when we went over this report in more detail that they were very helpful and accommodating to you as you completed the audit. And they have certainly earned the trust and confidence of this Board of Education. So again, thank you very much. And we really do appreciate all that you do for us.
Thank you. I just want to echo thanking Scott, Sarah, and Jane. You know, it's never easy switching auditors, and then to switch auditors when we can't necessarily come in and meet in person at first. And you know, it was a different year. It was difficult, you know, for everybody involved, but you guys definitely used our portal. You uploaded stuff. It just made it a lot easier and a lot smoother. So hopefully we can meet in person someday soon, and going forward, have a good relationship.
Well, we're always happy with no deficiencies, that could be said, and no non-compliance issues. So thank you very much for your work. And again, to echo Mrs. Nardilella's sentiments, we really appreciate Assistant Superintendent for Business, Mr. Scott Hoot, and his team for their good work. Allows us to sleep at night.
That's good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
All right, we're going to go to our short business meeting right now, and then we'll move into budget. I'd like a motion to approve the agreement with the Colony Youth Center. Ms. Chavo,
Move to approve the agreement with Colony Youth Center for the before and after school program and vacation camp program for the 2020-2021 school year. As recommended by the Superintendent for Business.
thank you. In a second, Mr. Cannon, any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor? Thank you. I'd like a motion to approve the resolution to grant utility easements to the town of Colony. Mr. Cannon,
I move to approve the resolution to grant utility easements to the town of Colony in, on, or over and through property owned by North Colony located at Shaker Junior High and Senior High School for the installation, construction, and maintenance of municipal utilities as recommended by the Assistant Superintendent for Business.
thank you. In a second, Mrs. Nardolillo, any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor? Thank you. Like a motion to approve a resolution to execute an approved contract with Train. Mrs. Durazio,
I move to approve the resolution to execute an approved contract with Train US Inc. and other such documents to facilitate incentives provided through the NYSERDA RTEM program and Building Automation Systems Service Agreement in a form approved by the District Superintendent and Legal Counsel.
thank you. In a second, Mr. Chavo, any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor? Thank you. I'll take a motion to adjourn the business meeting. Mrs. Pangburn,
I move to adjourn the business meeting.
and a second, Mr. Vondell. All in favor? Thank you very much. I will take a motion to go into an open budget meeting. Mrs. Nardolillo, a second. Mr. Chavo, all in favor? Thank you very much. I'd just like to point out that our budget co-chairs this year, Mrs. Nardolillo and Mr. Vondell. Mr. Corr, are you going to start, or will someone else be beginning?
This was the budget
Yeah,
No, we have, there is until it's it.
meeting.
that's it.
Done.
Done.
I was wondering.
You want to stay a meeting? We have
Yeah.
Wow. Mhm.
Okay, so now do we have to go back out?
Yeah, go back out. I didn't, I'll take a motion to either budget and a second, and all in favor. Thank you. Why did I think there was, I don't know. I asked you at the beginning.